Okay, let's unpack this. We've got an extraordinary collection of insights today, really a treasure trove spanning centuries and disciplines. If you thought you had a handle on, what makes a powerful speech or a successful life, or maybe how to navigate this whole human condition thing, well,
Mhm.
our sources today might just flip the script a bit. They offer some really profound perspectives.
Absolutely. And our mission in this deep dive is really to meticulously extract these powerful nuggets of knowledge, these surprising facts from a remarkably diverse stack of sources. We're talking everything from, ancient Greek philosophy on rhetoric,
Oh,
all the way to 19th century American lectures on wealth, which are often quite provocative.
right.
And then we'll also get into some poignant, really personal reflections from Holocaust survivors and even look at modern studies on things like vulnerability. The threads connecting them all, though, they're these timeless human experiences, aren't they? Striving, communicating well, finding opportunity, building a meaningful life. We're looking for what truly resonates,
Yeah.
what connects the dots for you.
Yeah, it really feels like we're piecing together this, I don't know, almost a universal guide to just navigating being human. And it's all coming from voices you might not expect to hear in the same conversation. So yeah, buckle up. Let's dive in.
The art and impact of communication and persuasion.
So rhetoric, we hear that word thrown around a lot, don't we? Especially in like politics. And it's almost always negative, isn't it? Like spin or just empty words, maybe trying to mislead people. Hot air.
Exactly. Hot air.
Yeah.
That's the common view. But our sources, when you go back to the origins, they show something much deeper, something more um, substantial, vital even. So the question is, what is rhetoric really? In its original, maybe its most impactful sense?
Okay, so what did the classical thinkers say?
Well, what's fascinating is how they immediately lift it beyond just, manipulation. Aristotle, for instance, he didn't see it as deception at all. For him, rhetoric was the power to discover whatever is persuasive in speech. Think about that phrase. Not forcing persuasion, discovering it.
Discovery. Okay, so finding what's already there that could persuade.
Precisely. It was about the process. Identifying, understanding, and then presenting those elements within a subject that could genuinely persuade a specific audience. So focusing on the facts, the logic, the emotional connection rather than just fancy words or tricks.
Yeah.
It took a real understanding,
Yeah.
of people, of the situation.
So it's about intelligence, really, insight, not just being a smooth talker.
Exactly. And Quintilian, who came later, a Roman rhetorician, he expanded on this. He defined it as the power to discover and to utter forth in elegant language whatever is credible in every subject of oratory.
Mm-hmm.
He really stressed that this skill involved not just finding the credible stuff, the truth,
Uh-huh.
but also judging how important it was, arranging it effectively, and then expressing it with, elegance and force that matched its significance. So for these guys, rhetoric was about finding real credibility and presenting it brilliantly. Intellect plus style.
That is such a different picture from what most of us probably think of today. But it wasn't universally seen that way back then either, was it? I mean, Plato had some issues initially.
Oh, absolutely. Plato, particularly in his early dialogue, Gorgias, was much more skeptical, at least through the voice of Socrates. Socrates famously called oratory just a knack acquired by routine, like a trick, a form of pandering. He compared it to things like cookery, something that just aims to please tastes without offering real nourishment. Or sophistry, making weak arguments seem strong.
Ouch. Cookery. So basically, all style, no substance, aiming to persuade without actually teaching anything true.
That was his early critique, yeah. It was about manipulating opinion, gaining power through popular appeal, not conveying real, lasting knowledge. Pleasing the crowd, basically.
Okay, so that highlights that classic tension, right? Persuasion versus truth. We still deal with that constantly.
We absolutely do. But what's really compelling is that later, in another dialogue, Phaedrus, Plato's view, or Socrates' view, seems to evolve quite a bit. He suggested that rhetoric could actually be a true branch of expertise or knowledge. But, and this is a big but,
There's always a but with Plato.
right, only if it was genuinely grounded in knowledge and truth, not just catering to, fleeting opinions or what the source calls the corrupt condition of the listener. So rhetoric had to move beyond just flattery or emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
It had to align with real understanding and crucially ethical intent.
A rhetoric of substance, then, grounded in truth.
That's precisely. And the key to achieving that for Plato was something called dialectic.
Dialectic.
Yeah.
Mutual discussion, right, back and forth.
Exactly. Rigorous questioning and discussion. He saw it as way better than just one person giving a speech, a monologue. Because dialectic forces you to participate, to think critically. People have to examine their own values and assumptions when they're being questioned. You have to defend your ideas.
Makes sense. It's harder to hide weak arguments in a real back and forth.
Right. And Plato emphasized this wasn't just, casual chat. It was structured, like a philosophical cross-examination, testing assumptions, refining definitions. It demanded intellectual honesty. He even made the point that no one teaches geometry that way, meaning you don't teach math by just pandering or using imagination. But he did concede that rhetoric's ability to make something clear, to say it this way or that way, still had some small necessary place in every sort of teaching. The goal, though, was for it to become a proper branch of rational expertise, not just some empirical knack you pick up through trial and error.
So the really big takeaway here isn't just what rhetoric is, but that its true power, its ethical core, depends on being rooted in truth and genuine inquiry. It's a tool. And like any tool, it matters who's using it and why, right? To shed light or to, well, confuse things.
That's a perfect way to put it. Are you building bridges with it, or are you tearing them down? Same tool, totally different intent and outcome.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got this ideal of rhetoric as a powerful ethical tool for truth. But how does that philosophy actually play out in the real world? How do these intentions, good or bad, actually show up in speeches that, change things, speeches that shape history?
Well, that's where we see these master orators really taking that potential and turning it into impact. Think about Demosthenes, the great Athenian orator. His famous speeches, the Philippics, they weren't just eloquent, they were incredibly strategic. He focused intensely on the specific needs of his audience, the Athenians, and the immediate political situation they were in. He tailored everything.
So really targeted communication long before we called it that.
Oh, absolutely. Quintilian later on praised Demosthenes for his concentrated style. He said Demosthenes used a rapier, not a bludgeon. Precise, sharp, cutting right to the point. Quintilian even suggested people should memorize Demosthenes' speeches because they were models of judgment, arrangement, preparation, proof. The whole package.
Wow. Memorize them.
Yeah. And even his delivery advice was about substance over flash. Demosthenes apparently advised against a voluptuous effect of soft and delicate rhythm. Instead, he advocated for the wiry sinews of the soldier in arguments, energy, speed, conviction. It was rhetoric designed for action, demanding engagement.
That energy, that urgency, you hear echoes of that in some key American voices too, don't you? People fighting for freedom, for equality, like Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. That wasn't just persuasive. It was raw. It was a direct call to arms. It absolutely fueled the revolutionary spirit.
It tapped right into the core anxieties and hopes of that specific moment, a rhetorical masterstroke.
Exactly. And then you jump forward to 1848, Elizabeth Cady Stanton's Declaration of Sentiments. It's structured like a legal document, really laying out the case, insisting on immediate admission to all the rights and privileges for women. And she knew, they all knew, they'd face backlash, misconception, misrepresentation, and ridicule, she predicted. But they were determined to use every instrumentality they had. She meticulously listed the ways men denied women education, property, respect. It was foundational.
So powerful. And then you have the incredible voice of Sojourner Truth, raw, unvarnished truth. At an anti-slavery event in 1854, she said something profound, that the evils of slavery could not be spoken, they could only be felt, acknowledging the limits of words. But then she issued this direct challenge. Apparently, she said, with this mix of humor and deadly seriousness, it was good that white folks should sometimes feel the prick. Got laughs and cheers.
Wow. That takes courage.
Immense courage. It wasn't a plea, it was a demand for empathy, for accountability. And she wanted her speeches published as Sojourner Truth on suffrage, to rouse the people on equality. She famously declared her intention to sojourn once to the ballot box before I die. These weren't just speeches, they were acts of defiance demanding justice.
And it's incredible how these core ideals, often voiced by people facing huge opposition, kept driving movements forward right into modern times. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream is maybe the most famous example. That vision of harmony, delivered with such moral force. But as Theodore Shaw points out, King's path wasn't easy. He faced pushback not just from outside, but even within the civil rights movement itself. His ability to hold on to that vision, to articulate it so powerfully amidst all that complexity, that's what made it stick.
Absolutely. And you see a similar unwavering commitment in Nelson Mandela's speech from the dock in 1964, I am prepared to die. He laid out his ideal. A democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities.
Well, yeah.
And his commitment was total. He said, "It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. And it says, these aren't just words. They're beliefs made manifest, a rhetoric grounded in deep truth and an ethical vision.
That phrase, unwavering belief, that really hits home, that deep sense of purpose driving the words, which makes you wonder, how do people find that conviction, that potential inside themselves, especially if they don't even know it's there? Because our next set of sources suggests the answer might be, well, surprisingly close.
Unearthing opportunity and driving personal achievement.
So we've touched on belief, knowing your why, how that fuels communication. Now, things get really interesting with this next idea. What if the riches, the success, the fulfillment you're looking for, what if it's literally right under your feet? Sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Like something from a self-help seminar, maybe?
It can sound that way, yeah. But this was the core philosophy of Russell H. Conwell, and his lecture, Acres of Diamonds, was phenomenally popular. He delivered it, get this, over 6,000 times. And apparently, he'd often get to a town early, talk to the postmaster, the barber, teachers, just regular folks, to understand their town, their needs, what opportunities might be getting overlooked right there.
So he did actual research on the ground.
He did. And from all that, he kept coming back to the same conclusion, that every man has the opportunity to make more of himself than he does in his own environment, with his own skill, with his own energy, and with his own friends. It's this powerful message of, like, given an opportunity, look inward, look around you, not way out there.
Okay, I get the concept. Opportunity is close. But why is it so hard to see sometimes, if it's right there? Did Conwell talk about, like, common blind spots or a mindset shift needed to actually notice and, act on it?
Oh, absolutely. His whole lecture was basically built around stories illustrating exactly those blind spots.
Yeah.
The most famous one, you've probably heard variations of it, is about the Persian farmer Ali Hafed. Conwell said he heard this from an old guide. Ali Hafed had a perfectly good farm, was doing well, but he heard these stories about people finding diamonds elsewhere, making vast fortunes.
Ah, the grass is always greener.
Exactly. So he gets consumed by this, sells his farm, leaves his family, travels the world searching for diamonds, spends everything, ends up broken, hopeless in Barcelona, and, well, drowns himself in despair. The tragic irony, the huge blind spot, was that the guy who bought Ali Hafed's farm, he finds acres of diamonds right there on the land Ali Hafed sold, in the stream running through it.
Oh, man, that's brutal, but it makes the point perfectly, doesn't it? Overlooking what you already have.
Perfectly. And Conwell didn't stop there. He used a striking American example, too, to make it even more relatable, the California gold rush.
Right.
He told the guy in California back in 1847 who sold his ranch why. Because he was convinced he needed to go find gold somewhere else. The buyer, a Colonel Sutter, puts a mill on a stream on that same ranch, and Sutter's daughter, just playing in the water coming from the mill, finds the first flakes of gold ever discovered in California.
No way. On a land the first guy sold.
Right there. The guy literally walked away from it. Conwell emphasized $38 million has been taken out of a very few acres since then. He even mentioned a later owner getting $120 in gold every 15 minutes, sleeping or waking, without taxation. Just illustrates the massive potential we can miss right under our noses.
So these aren't just warnings. Conwell was giving actual advice, wasn't he? How to find your own acres of diamonds.
Yes, very practical advice. He'd tell people basically, take only 4 blocks around you and find out what the people want and what you ought to supply. He was adamant. There is wealth right within the sound of your voice. It's about observing your immediate community, your neighborhood, your skills, with fresh eyes, what's needed, what's missing, and then, crucially, taking the initiative.
Okay, give me an example of someone who actually did that.
He hit a great one. The Hingham toy maker. This is a poor guy, out of work, in Hingham, Massachusetts. No prospects. One day, he just whittles a little wooden chain for his kids. Simple thing. His wife sees and says, hey, maybe you can make toys to sell. But he had no money for wood, so what did he use?
Let me guess. Something readily available.
Firewood.
Yeah.
Stuff he already had. And here's the key part. He asked his own kids what they liked, what kind of toys they wanted. Based on that, he started making these strong, unpainted Hingham toys that became famous. He started small, selling them through the local boot and shoe store next door, used an existing connection. From that tiny start, with literally no capital but a penknife and an eye for local need, he got incredibly rich. Worth $100 million, Conwell claimed. built on understanding and serving a local need with resources at hand.
It's not just about money, though, is it? It feels like a broader metaphor, recognizing value in your skills, your relationships, your community, stuff that's already there. It's about shifting focus from chasing distant dreams to cultivating what's right in front of you. But Conwell took it further, didn't he? He brought morality into it.
He really did, and it was quite provocative for his time, maybe even now. He argued it's a duty to get rich, a duty, and that to make money honestly is to preach the gospel. He was directly challenging that old idea that wealth is somehow inherently bad or unspiritual. He argued that the men who get rich may be the most honest men you find in the community, suggesting that real sustainable wealth often comes from integrity, from serving people well, meeting genuine needs. For him, success, ethical success, wasn't just personal gain, it was a moral good. It contributed to society.
Okay, duty to get rich, making money is preaching the gospel. That's pretty strong stuff. It could easily rub people the wrong way, even today. How did he square that? Was he just saying capitalism is good, or was there something deeper about service?
That's a fair question. His point, as I understand it, was more about potential and responsibility. If you're a fundamentally good person with good intentions, then having more resources, more wealth, allows you to do more good, create jobs, support causes, improve your community. Wealth, in his view, was a tool. It amplified your existing character. A good person with wealth does good things. He wasn't championing greed, he was championing the responsibility to maximize your positive impact, and wealth could enable that.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. It's about enablement.
Exactly. And he used a really personal story to illustrate the connection between ethics and business success. About his father's country store. When Conwell was young and left in charge, customers would ask for jackknives. He didn't stock them, thought they were trivial, turned people away. Later, he realized that was a mistake, both commercially and ethically. He said, the foundation of godliness and the foundation principle of success in business are both the same precisely. If he'd run the store on a Christian plan, godly plan, meaning serving the customer's needs, he would have had the jackknife. He'd have done him a kindness and received a reward myself. It's about seeing service and prosperity as linked.
That really reframes it. It's not just about profit, it's about creating value by meeting needs, and that having an ethical dimension.
Right. And he was also pretty critical of inherited wealth. He famously said he pities the rich man's son because they often miss the discipline of earning it themselves. He'd cite these Massachusetts statistics, claiming not one rich man's son out of 17 ever dies rich. A stark warning about entitlement, maybe.
Wow, that's a striking statistic.
Yeah. And he loved the example of the elder Vanderbilt's son. Apparently, the son rejected his father's millions initially, chose to work on a ferry boat, earning his own way. Conwell argued that this gave him the discipline of a poor boy that is worth more than a university education. That struggle, that hands-on experience was invaluable, making him capable of managing the fortune later. It really champions the value of earned experience, of grit.
It's a powerful counterpoint to just focusing on wealth accumulation or privilege. Earned experience matters deeply. And Theodore Roosevelt, around the same time, was saying something similar, wasn't he? Looking beyond just money for defining success.
He was. Roosevelt flatly stated, the acquisition of wealth is not in the least the only test of success. For him, you had to judge people on his worth as a man, their character, their contributions, their impact, not just their bank balance. He was pretty scathing about what he called men of soft life, who resisted change that might help ordinary people just out of fear or complacency. Real worth for TR involved courage, responsibility, contributing to the common good.
That ties in nicely with more modern ideas, too, like Simon Sinek's concept of why.
It absolutely does. Sinek's whole thing is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yeah.
He uses Apple as a prime example.
Yeah.
Their loyalty isn't just about the gadgets. It's about buying into their why, challenging the status quo, thinking differently. It's almost like joining a cause, a matter of faith.
Right. It connects on a deeper level.
Exactly. And Sinek also shares this great story about a General Robinson, an instructor at the Fighter Weapons School. She emphasizes that leadership isn't about the person at the top. It's about the lieutenants behind you. And she believes a clear sense of purpose, a clear idea of why she comes to work, is the absolute cornerstone of her success and her team's success. It's that intrinsic motivation, that shared belief in a mission. She finishes by saying, basically, if enough people operate with that sense of purpose, then we leave this country in better shape than we found it. And isn't that the point?
Isn't that the point? Yeah, that deep sense of purpose, that why. It often doesn't come easy, does it? It often emerges when we navigate life's really tough stuff. It's in those challenges, maybe, that we figure out what we're really made of and what truly matters most.
The human condition. Resilience, vulnerability, and purpose.
Okay, so we've looked at communication, finding opportunity, but life isn't always about those big wins, is it? Sometimes maybe the biggest strength is just having the courage to be seen, flaws and all. This whole idea of embracing vulnerability. It feels so countercultural sometimes. We're told to be tough, put on a brave face.
It really does feel counterintuitive. And that's why Brené Brown's work on shame has resonated so much. She argues that shame derives its power from being unspeakable. Think about that. It thrives in silence. That's why it loves perfectionists. It's so easy to keep us quiet because perfectionists hate showing any flaws, any cracks where shame might get in.
So keeping it secret gives it power.
Exactly. And her big insight is that shame hates having words wrapped around it. If we speak shame, it begins to wither. Just naming it, talking about it, sharing our stories, that's how we take its power away. And she links this directly to Teddy Roosevelt's man in the arena idea. You know, the person who's actually doing the thing, striving, maybe failing. Brown says, when we dare greatly, we will err, and we will come up short again and again.
Right.
Living fully means accepting failure and imperfection are part of the deal.
So it's not about avoiding shame, because you probably can if you're really living. It's about building, what does she call it? Shame resilience.
Shame resilience, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the ability to feel the hurt, the disappointment, maybe even the devastation when things go wrong or when you feel exposed, but then being able to say to yourself, essentially, okay, this hurts, this stings, but things like success or approval aren't my core values. My value is courage, and I was just courageous by showing up. So you could back off now, shame.
Wow. That's powerful. It's like an internal reframing based on your own values, not external judgment.
Precisely. And another really interesting concept she talks about is foreboding joy. One of these vulnerability shields we put up without realizing it. You know that feeling? When something really good happens, maybe you fall in love, could get a great job, and instead of just pure joy, there's this little nagging voice.
Oh, yeah. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is too good to be true.
That's exactly it, foreboding joy. We approach happiness with this sense of dread, almost bracing for disaster, because maybe pure joy feels too vulnerable, too risky. And the result, she says, is we become joy-starved. We're so busy protecting ourselves from potential future pain that we don't fully experience the happiness that's right here now.
That hits home. So getting past that, embracing vulnerability, finding self-acceptance, it sounds like a journey, a long one. Brown calls it the long journey from what will people think to I'm enough. How does that journey start?
It starts, she says, with those building blocks. Shame resilience, self-compassion, and owning our stories. It means fundamentally giving ourselves a break, treating ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer a friend who's struggling, appreciating the beauty of our cracks or imperfections instead of trying to hide them, realizing they don't make us unworthy, they make us human, they're part of our story.
And that self-acceptance, that sense of being enough, that's key to connection too, isn't it?
Absolutely critical. Her research found that the one thing separating people who felt a deep sense of love and belonging from those struggling to find it was simply the belief in their worthiness. It's fundamental. To truly connect, to let ourselves be loved, we first have to believe deep down that we are worthy of love and belonging. It starts from within.
That inner strength, that worthiness, it must be tested to its absolute limit when people face truly unimaginable adversity, like the Holocaust. It's almost impossible to comprehend, yet some of the most profound insights about memory, meaning resilience, come from that darkness.
They really do. Elie Wiesel, a survivor himself, spoke so powerfully about what he called the terrible dilemma of memory. He felt torn. On the one hand, I would like you to remember. On the other hand, I know you cannot remember. I cannot remember. Is this paradox? Wanting the world to remember, but knowing the true depth of the experience is maybe fundamentally incommunicable unless you were there. Even his own memory struggled to hold it all.
That's heartbreaking. The burden of being a witness to something so vast and horrific.
Yeah, he wrestled with it constantly. What about those whom only I have seen? What about the words that nobody uttered? How do you carry that? How do you convey it? And he felt a real desperation about what he saw as an assault on Jewish memory. When scholars or others would try to discredit survivor testimony as too subjective, too involved, or suggest memories fade and become unreliable.
Like trying to sanitize history, maybe. Erase the raw human experience.
That seemed to be his fear. It wasn't just about historical facts. It was about honoring the lived truth, the human dimension of that suffering, which resists neat, objective boxes.
At the same time, you have Viktor Frankl, another survivor, a psychiatrist, who found a way to derive profound meaning from that same abyss.
Yes, Franker's experience in the camps, where he estimated the survival chance at maybe 1 in 28, led him to fundamentally rethink meaning.
Mhm.
He talks about the despair of arriving at Auschwitz and losing his life's work, his manuscript, instantly. Everything external stripped away. But through that, he came to this core realization. To have experienced is the most real form of life. And crucially, that meaning isn't about what life gives you, what you expect from it,
Right.
but rather it's found in your attitude towards whatever life throws at you, your response to the challenges, the opportunities, however bleak. It's about choosing your inner stance, even when all external freedom is gone. That, for Frankl, was the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose your attitude.
Choosing your attitude. That sounds very stoic, actually. Like didn't Seneca say something like, no one has controlled his life aright unless he has first learned to despise it? Which sounds harsh, but I think he meant overcoming the fear of death, right?
Exactly. Not hating life, but losing the fear of losing it. Seneca believed if we understand the limits of good and evil, figure out what's truly in our control, our thoughts, our responses, and what isn't, external events, death, then life will not weary us, neither will death make us afraid. Confronting mortality frees us to live more fully without being paralyzed by fear.
And it's fascinating how that ancient idea pops up again with someone like Steve Jobs, his personal mantra.
Right, he adopted that quote, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." And apparently for over 30 years, he asked himself every single morning, looking in the mirror, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today?
Wow.
Every day. And if the answer was no, for too many days in a row, he knew he had to change something significant. He said, remembering that you're going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. It's just this radical call to authenticity, using mortality as a filter to cut through the noise, the fear, the external pressures, and focus on what truly matters to you.
That's such a stark, powerful way to live, facing your mortality daily as a compass.
Right.
Really makes you think about how much time we waste on things that don't align with, our deeper values. And maybe when you strip away all that fear and external stuff, what's left, what becomes most vital, is connection, community. Is that where these personal battles often lead?
It really seems so. It's fascinating how these deep dives into adversity often circle back to the profound importance of community and human connection. Kurt Vonnegut, for instance, put it pretty bluntly. Communities are all that's substantial about the world. All the rest is hoopla.
Hoopla, classic Vonnegut.
Right. He believed that human beings are supposed to live in stable, like-minded, extended families of 50 people or more. He saw our modern setup leading to deep loneliness because we've lost that. He argued, a man cannot be a whole society to a woman, and a woman cannot be a whole society to a man. We need that broader network, that village, that tribe. It's fundamental to our nature.
And his solution wasn't some complex social theory, was it? It was much simpler. His only rule.
Just devastatingly simple. God damn it, you gotta be kind. That was his ultimate takeaway. He saw Jesus as the greatest and most humane of human beings, and the Sermon on the Mount is basically the only good idea we have had so far. It's just this radical, straightforward call to basic human decency, kindness as the bedrock.
Kindness. And appreciating the small things, too, right? Wasn't there something about his uncle?
Yes. His good Uncle Alex, apparently whenever things were just nice, pleasant, maybe sitting with lemonade on a summer day, his uncle would always say, if this isn't nice, what is? It's such a simple prompt to just notice, to pause, appreciate the good moments, savor them instead of always chasing the next thing. Mindfulness, gratitude, baked into everyday life.
I love that. And Theodore Roosevelt, again, he talked about the importance of connection on a societal level, too, didn't he? Fellow feeling.
Yes, fellow feeling as a political factor. He stressed avoiding class antagonism, pushing for an economic democracy alongside political democracy, and always remembering to treat each man on his worth as a man, not by wealth, not by status, but by their inherent human dignity and character. It's a call for mutual respect across divides.
Which feels incredibly relevant today. What happens when that fellow feeling, that empathy seems to be lacking? There's a concept mentioned, EDD.
Right, empathy deficit disorder, EDD. Tara Grove introduced this idea, describing it as this internal struggle we have between empathy, our ability to feel with others, and the demands of cold, hard reason. Some argue empathy is too unstable, too emotional, maybe even innumerate, bad at dealing with large numbers to be a reliable guide for policy or big decisions. But the key question raised is, can unstable emotions like empathy and compassion be transformed into something more enduring? Can we harness them effectively? The call is for a broad-based coalition of people who can connect empathy with reason and action, not just feeling bad, but doing something constructive about it.
And the arts play a role here, don't they, in nurturing that imagination of humanness?
A crucial role, often undervalued. It's not just literature, but music, fine arts, dance, and the other creative arts that cultivate our ability to imagine other perspectives, to feel empathy. And Rabindranath Tagore saw this danger way back in 1917. He worried that the narrow demands of the global economy threatened the eclipse of these crucial human abilities. Imagination, compassion, the very things needed for a just and peaceful world. A chillingly prophetic warning.
It really is. It feels like all these threads, communication, finding opportunity, resilience, connection, empathy, they all ultimately point towards a shared responsibility, don't they?
They absolutely do. It culminates in this almost universal mandate you find across different sources. The call to leave the world a better place than it was before you got here. And the sources are clear about the challenges. Wars, poverty, inequality, intolerance, child abuse, climate change, sickness, disease, social injustice. The list is long and daunting. The implication seems to be that by integrating these lessons, finding purpose, speaking truth, seeing opportunity, embracing vulnerability, cultivating empathy, each of us has a part to play in tackling these huge issues, using our insights, our courage, our compassion.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today. Seriously. From, the ancient Greeks figuring out the ethics of persuasion,
Right.
all the way to deeply personal stories of survival and finding meaning. And then connecting that to things like finding acres of diamonds right where you are and the absolute fundamental need for kindness and community. It's amazing how interconnected it all feels.
It really is remarkable. That common thread woven through all these, seemingly disparate sources, it's powerful. It's this realization, isn't it? That the biggest changes, whether they're personal transformations or shifts in society, they often start inside. It starts with seeing opportunity differently, maybe right in front of you. It starts with committing to truth, to ethical intent when you communicate.
Yeah.
And it requires the courage to engage with everything it means to be human, the good, the bad, the vulnerable, the messy parts. Ultimately, yeah, it comes down to finding clarity on your why and then having the guts to act on it, knowing that changing yourself often comes first before you can change the world.
Yeah. And this deep dive, it wasn't just like a history lesson or some academic thing. It really feels like holding up a mirror, reflecting these universal truths that are relevant right now to your life, your challenges, your potential.
Absolutely. So maybe here's a provocative thought to leave you with. What if you really truly internalize this idea? That your most significant acres of diamonds aren't somewhere else. They're right here in your talents, your neighborhood, your relationships, the needs you see around you right now. And what if you combine that realization with the unwavering courage to speak your truth with integrity, to embrace vulnerability not as weakness but as strength, to genuinely connect with others through empathy? How might truly living that way fundamentally redefine not just your own path to success or fulfillment, whatever that means for you, but also our collective ability, our shared power to actually build that more just, more humane, more purposeful world that so many of these incredible voices dreamed of?